What is up? What is up? Hello, everyone, and welcome to another edition of The Main Event. It is I, Mike, your host, here with you for the next hour or so, talking about the Detroit Lions, NFL football. NFL draft is in the books. I'd like to thank anyone joining me today. We are broadcasting live into Detroit Lions Villain Squad on Facebook, Detroit Lions News Podcast. Thanks to Joe Chapp and the boys over there for letting us broadcast in there. Really appreciate it. Also, our new YouTube handle, same YouTube channel, just got a new handle. It's at Villain Squad on YouTube. Check us out. Let's jump right into it, shall we? What's up, Donkey Kong? Thanks for being here today. Super Bowler Buzz Holmes is amazing. Best GM in football. And that's exactly where I want to start, Donkey Kong. The NFL 2024 draft is now in the books. And hey, Ken, what's happening? This is Main Event Mike here, but you can call me Jeremy. That's okay. Hit the like emoji if you think I'm Jeremy. Hit the heart emoji if you know I'm Main Event Mike. Okay. So 2024 NFL draft is in the books, and the Lions, by all accounts, good grades all the way around. There were some real surprises, some winners, some losers. There's a lot of information out there on the internet today, but as we like to do on this program, we like to kind of step outside the box and not talk about what everyone else is talking about. We got Russell Wayne will be here tomorrow, 3 p.m., and every weekday for the rest of the week at 3 p.m. Jeremy Ballreich be on this network every weekday at 11 a.m. So there's a lot of opinions out there right here on this network. There's a lot of opinions, but we like to try to step outside the box here in this one, maybe talk about what people aren't talking about. And what I want to talk about is how I am the president of the Brad Holmes fan club. Those of you who have been following us for a couple of years, you know I am so super intrigued with general managers. I think the way that their profile has risen over the last few years is incredible. If you'd have asked me 10 years ago to name 2 or 3 general managers in the NFL, I wouldn't have been able to. Now there's only 2 or 3 I can't name, because their profile now is so big. These guys are like modern day rock stars. The things they do, it's like sitting at the high stakes table in the poker room. They play with the highest stakes imaginable. There are only 32 guys that have this job in the world. Maybe someday there'll be a female that holds this job. I'm sure that'll happen soon. But there are 32 folks that have this job in the world, and they're very, very competitive. Don't think for a minute that they're not competitive. They're always breeding competition into their organizations. They bring in a quarterback when you don't need a quarterback. They bring in a running back when you don't need a running back. Why? Competition. Competition breeds results. And don't think for a minute that these guys aren't just as competitive against each other. Some of the real rock stars in this business, Brad Holmes, Brett Veach from Kansas City, Mickey Loomis from New Orleans, Eric DeCosta from Baltimore, John Schneider in Seattle, and maybe the best one of them all, Howie Roseman in Philadelphia. These guys are the cream of the crop when it comes to general manager executives in this league. Brad Holmes won the Writers Award for Executive of the Year this year, I should say. Roseman won it the year before. So these guys in direct competition with each other. In the 4th round, the Detroit Lions selected a player named Giovanni Manu, who is from the University of British Columbia in Canada. He's 6'7" and 5/8", 352 pounds. A lot of different numbers being thrown around today, but I think I got confirmation today. Those are his actual measurements. 6'7" and 5/8", damn near 6'8", 352 pounds. He ran a 3.96 40-yard dash. A sub 5-second 40, folks, is unheard of for a human being who weighs 352 pounds. It's just unheard of. If they run a 5.2 or a 5.3, that's considered elite. This guy ran a 4.96. There were 16 different teams that went to his pro day in Canada, and Howie Roseman was one of them. Philadelphia was one of them. So when this guy's still on the board and Brad Holmes looks at what he has done and he looks at what Philadelphia has done, trust me, these teams are very similar. Philadelphia, one of the best offensive lines in the league. They lose a couple players from that starting line. Kelsey to retirement, of course. The Lions also lose Jonah Jackson, a starter from their offensive line. In the first and second round, the Lions choose 2 corners. In the first and second round, the Philadelphia Eagles choose 2 corners. So as the 4th round is rolling around and the Philadelphia Eagles are on the clock and Giovanni Manu is still there, Brad Holmes looks at it and says, wow, I really want to get that guy. I've wanted to get that guy. And now that Howie hasn't taken an offensive lineman, I'll bet you Howie's going to take that guy. So he gets on his horse and he makes a move up over 40 slots to take Giovanni Manu right in front of the Philadelphia Eagles. Now, we don't know for sure. We'll never know for sure. But don't think for a minute that these guys don't take things like this into account when they are being competitive. This guy's not a play right now guy, right? Brad Holmes even said it in his post-draft presser. This guy's not a play right now. He's more of a Broderick Martin, a project. With crazy athletic skills like that, he also had a 33-inch vertical at 352 pounds. With crazy athleticism like that, and you're on a team like the Lions who don't have a lot of holes, they have the luxury of being able to develop a guy like that. To be able to develop a guy like Broderick Martin, who they drafted last year, who didn't see the field a lot this year. Don't expect Giovanni Manu to see the field a lot this year. The fact is, this is a potentially game-changing player on the offensive line a year or 2 from now. And Brad Holmes saw the opportunity to jump up in front of one of his contemporaries and take this player. I think it speaks volume to his forward thinking. It speaks volumes to his eye for talent. And it also speaks to what he cherishes in a player. After he was drafted, there was a great interview with him who said that Penei Sewell is one of his idols. That's one of his heroes. He's of South Pacific descent from Tonga, just like Penei Sewell, who's from Samoa. And he reveres Penei Sewell at the highest. So to be able to play with him and to have that kind of reverence for the game and for the people who play the game at a high level, checked a box for Brad Holmes. And he said, I got to have this guy. And he got up and he made it happen. Sure. Were there some picks there in the 4th round that might have helped this team right now? Probably. But he didn't want to let this opportunity get away. I love the pick. I never heard of the guy. When they picked him, Russ, Wayne, and I were flabbergasted. My brain had shot to the back of my head. I had no idea. You got to figure, folks, the day after the Super Bowl ends, podcasters like myself, Russell Wayne, Jeremy B., we get on our horse and start looking at draft prospects. We shift gears almost immediately and start looking at the draft. And by the time draft day comes, each one of us, and that's not just us, it's all of them, any of them that do this. By the time the draft rolls around, we've literally looked at, read about, thumbed through 1,000 prospects. And those of you who know me know that like memory is like my thing, right? Like everybody has their thing. My thing is you can tell me the words to a song once, I can remember all the words. I give mass trainings to like 20, 30 people. I could say all their names back to them after they stand up and say their names. Memory is like my thing. So when they call, never do they call a name on draft day that I haven't heard the name already or read the name somewhere, except when Brad Holmes drafts. I had no idea who James Houston was at the time. No idea. Every year they take somebody, Brad takes someone that I missed. And this year I buckled down with one mission to be able to evaluate as many prospects as I could in my limited time and not have Brad Holmes draft a player I had never heard of. And then in the 4th round, here he comes. Giovanni Manu. Russ and I's jaws hit the ground. We had no idea who this guy was. You could see Russell Wayne thinking about it. We made a reel on it, so you might see that on the Villain Squad page. Click on it. It's very comical. I'm losing my shit because I can't believe Brad did it to me again. A player I had no idea about. So I look him up while I'm live on the air for the draft. I look him up. There are no stats. There's nothing on this guy, just where he went to school and that he's a senior. That was it. And then slowly things start to trickle in and we get our information on this guy. And now we're all wrapping our heads around this is a giant from Canada, by way of Tonga. 6'8", 350. And this is going to be a project player. And what a dash of excitement that adds to the draft every year. There was a lot of excitement this year, and we'll talk about that too. Let's see what we got in the comments, man. Appreciate every one of you guys today. Sorry, main event, Mike. I'm watching the Bell Kuiper presentation of the grades for the draft picks. Well, share it with us, Ken. We'd like to know what some of those grades are while you're watching. Elise Memes in the house. So happy with this draft. We got some beefs. Go Lions. Thank you, Elise. Also, some undrafted free agents picked up. Ken says, I think our free agent pickups are just as awesome as our actual draft picks. I'm a day behind. I have not gone through all I did was see the list. I did not research any of the names on the list yet. That will be coming out in Reels this week on the Villain Squad. Steve says, sup, everyone. Sup, Steve? You drafted a bunch of guys in Green Bay I wasn't crazy about, but what do I know? And everywhere I look, it says Green Bay had a great draft. So I got to dig into that one a little bit deeper, but I'm happy that you're happy, and I appreciate you being on the show. Ronald Hughes in the house. Detroit Lions, man. I'm from the D. Talking to Flint right here, Ronald. Appreciate you being on the show today. Our good friend Roy, I'm good with this pick. He's going to be a major value pick for the Lions. We shall see. But certainly, he'll at least be on the practice squad. And our guys are going to have to try to move a guy that big. That's going to be good just for our defensive tackles to work against a man that massive. And every day working against Aleem McNeil and every day working against DJ Reader, sharpens iron, they say. This will be iron sharpening a wooden stick because this kid's never seen competition like NFL level. But, man, I agree with you, Roy. It's great. Fred says it's a great day to be a Lion. One pride. Bob's in the house, says, why the running back? I'll tell you why, Rob. And Bob, I'm really glad you brought it up. Sion Vaki in the 4th round. Guy is listed as a running back, but he's a safety. And what happened, Bob, was they were decimated in injury at his college, the University of Utah. They got decimated at running back by injuries, and they needed somebody to step up and tote the rock. So they tapped one of their safeties, Sion Vaki, to start running the ball. He was a running back in high school. And what happens? He turns out to have one of the best yards per carry averages in the country. Every time he touches the rock, it's electric. He only had limited touches, but every time he did touch it, he was electric. So you go and watch the tape, or at least the highlights of this guy. Go over on YouTube and look it up. Special teams, this guy's a stud. He's the first man down every play. He's a gunner. So that's 3 positional value that he brings, 3 tools: safety, running back, special teams. Brad Holmes always say, we don't draft for position. We don't draft for need. We draft football players. Well, hell, he's a football player. However, why the running back, you say? His meetings with the Lions came by way of Ben Johnson, the offensive coordinator. So I believe this was Ben's pick. This was Ben pounding the table, say, hey, I want that guy. You want to get creative? This is a guy to get creative with. Now, it's going to be really hard to crack that running back room. But who did we have? Called this, by the way. It's on a reel from 2 weeks ago on our page. Craig Reynolds. He's a tough RB3. You're not going to knock Craig off his perch as RB3 unless you really, really show out in the preseason. Obviously, David Montgomery, Jahmyr Gibbs are rock solid at the 1 and 2. So why draft a running back? because you can then suit him up on the 53-man roster to play special teams. If you get an injury in the game, he immediately goes right to running back. You get an injury at safety, immediately can plug him in there. He's great to have. So don't be fooled that he's a running back, because we didn't need a running back. Behind Craig Reynolds, though, all we have, Zonovan Knight and Jermar Jefferson. That's it. That's it. Jermar Jefferson, of course, a Brad Holmes pick. Zonovan Knight, a free agent pickup off the scrap heap last year from the Jets, who then gets hurt. These are not frontline starter players. Definitely an opportunity for Sion Vaki to make this football team. Those two guys, Jefferson and Knight, they better watch their back from this guy. Because how many other positions do you play Zonovan Knight? And if he's producing as good as you on the field, not even better, if he's just producing as good as you, Zonovan Knight, you're gone. You're probably going to be gone. And on this team, not a lot of holes. It's going to be real hard for any rookie to crack this team. That's why we went into the draft with 8 picks and came out with 6 players. Wasn't that big a deal. Don't have that many holes. After what we did in free agency, after what we did in the draft, the players that we let go, we upgraded at every one of them. So it's a great question, Bob. I really appreciate it. Darcy on the line. What's up, Darcy? Lots of Giants in Canada. Canadian Giants. Canadian Giants. Yes, lots of Giants in Canada. Lots of Giants in Hawaii, in fact. There was a whole race of Giants in Hawaii in the 1910s and 1920s. They've since died out, but there is actually old footage of these Giants in Hawaii. And perhaps these big Samoan players that we see come out every year, maybe somehow they're linked to those Hawaiian Giants. And this guy is of South Pacific descent by way of Canada. Darcy, our favorite Canadian in the house. Glad to see you, Darcy. Let me know, Darcy, you want me to send you the link? I'll send you the link. We'll chop it up a little bit. I certainly don't mind. Thanks to everybody for being in the comments today. Don't forget you can follow us at Villain Squad on Facebook, Detroit Lions Villain Squad, and on YouTube at Villain Squad. Roy says, with the new kickoff rules, Sion Vaki could be huge. Could be. Mo Alexander might not make this team now because of Sion Vaki. He was on our practice squad all last year. He's the only guy on the payroll that's ever fielded an XFL kick. And now that we're dealing with XFL rules on kickoffs in the NFL, I looked at Mo Alexander as a guy who might crack the 53-man roster this year. But now he's got even more competition now with Sion Vaki, also a return man. Of course, we've got Khalif Raymond. When it comes to punt returns, they're kicking the ball to Khalif. He's one of the best punt returners in the league by average. He's top 3, I believe. And then you've got Jameson Williams. Could this, this whole XFL rules were put in place for one reason, to stop high-speed collisions. That's why you don't see Jameson Williams back there returning kicks, because we don't want anyone with a high-speed collision into JMO. But now, with these rules, they'll only be running at each other with a 5-yard start. Then it all becomes blocking. No collision, just mild collision. No big collision, just mild collision. Little collision. And then it's all blocking and a hole. And all JMO needs is a hole. Bam, he's gone. I was thinking that the Lions got something up their sleeve. Special teams coach Dave Phipps got something up his sleeve to put JMO in the return game and take advantage of these rules. We'll see if that happens. But Sion Vaki could also be figuring in that mix. That's a great call, Roy. Ken says the Lions did sign the kid from Michigan, Turner, the kicker, for competition, as the kicker from the Panthers maybe awaits us in the wings because there's no guarantee he comes to Detroit. From what I hear, Jake Bates has a lot of NFL offers waiting for him for tryouts. Doesn't mean he'll make any of the teams. Believe me, man, it's a big difference kicking in the NFL. Kicking is such a cerebral thing. You got to have it between the ears like solid, man, to be a kicker in the NFL. I know everybody's excited about Jake Bates, but there's a reason he's in the UFL. He's kicked for NFL teams before, tried out, and didn't make it. I don't have any stock in Jake Bates. A lot of people do. If he comes, if he makes the team, it's great. Great story. But I am not going to hold my breath 1 minute for a UFL kicker to make it onto a team that is vying for a Super Bowl. I would have much rather seen them draft Will Ricard or John Carty from Stanford. Those guys were drafted. We could have had them. Those teams probably going to have a kicker for the next 10 years and never have to worry about it. I would like that luxury. Michael Badgley, he's money within 40 yards. Money. But if you're an NFL kicker, man, you got to be money from 50 plus. Right? I know Dan Campbell's not going to kick it from there anyway. He's going to go for it. I know. But I want that guy on the bench when the game's on the line. I know he hit a 54-yarder in the playoff. I know. And I don't have anything against Badgley. But our coach doesn't seem to have a whole lot of confidence in him, so why should I? I have no stock in Jake Bates at all coming to the Lions. Be a nice story if it does, but I like it. Moving on. Scott's in the house. What's up, Scott? Imagine Manu in at fullback on the goal line, Roy says. Yeah. And to that point, our other 6th-round draft pick, Christian Mahogany, has done that. In college, they gave him the ball. 315 pounds. I expect him to make the team 100%. Maybe not a starter, but I expect Christian Mahogany to make the team. He had a 2nd-round grade in some projections. 3rd-round grade in every projection, at least. And we get him in the 6th round. I love it. He had a torn ACL once. That's probably why we got him. Nathan says Lions fans will fall in love with Vaki. He's a combo of Kyle Juszczyk without the wife making coats. Yeah. Lions fans will fall in love with this guy. If he can get on the field, it's a tough team to crack the lineup. There are a few teams out there, if they drafted Sione Vaki would be on the starting 53-man roster, no question. Not so with the Lions. He's going to have to work really hard to make this team. He's going to have to beat out Zonovan Knight. He's going to have to beat out Jermar Jefferson. That's probably harder than it sounds. Fred says that Donovan Peoples-Jones, also a return guy. That's right. Yeah, we got plenty of return guys. Vaki, his value lies in his versatility. You know Brad Holmes loves guys like this. He drafts a long corner in Ife Melifonwu. Ends up moving him to safety. But can still play corner. Positional value. He can still play multiple positions. This is how you mitigate injuries, which is what we saw them do. When Tracy Walker in Chicago gave up on a play and let DJ Moore score a touchdown that would be the winning score, Tracy Walker never saw the field again. They moved Ife Melifonwu to safety, and Tracy Walker never saw the field again the rest of the year. And Ife had a coming out with a couple of interceptions, some really good, a couple of sacks, really good play at safety. And then you got Brian Branch, who's a safety, but they played him at nickel corner. Position versatility. This regime is showing you how much they love it. Why did you draft Malcolm Rodriguez? He's only 6 foot tall. Well, he turned out to be a pretty doggone serviceable linebacker. Last year, he played fullback. Cabinda was gone. He took some snaps at fullback. Position versatility. Find a place for yourself on this team because it's loaded. And you better find a niche for yourself or you're probably going to be hitting the road. Like Brad said a couple months ago, not everyone can be a Detroit Lion. Wow. Wow. Am I in the Twilight Zone? What's going on? All my life, this franchise stunk. These kinds of phrases and this whole mindset's never even been possible in my lifetime. It's a great day to be a Lion, like our good friend Fred says. Jim says, Detroit, 38 plus years and live in the real Northern California mountains. Well, all right, Jim. Beautiful there, I'm sure. One pride. Thanks for being with us today. WrestleMania Pro Wrestling says Mahogany is the steal of the draft. Not just the best pick value-wise for the Lions, but Russell says the steal of the entire draft. Kickers? We talking about kickers? No, Adam, not anymore. Orlando says a 4.9640 is nuts. It's completely nuts. That is, trust me, that is in the top 99 percentile, the top 1 percentile of human beings who are 352 pounds and can run a sub 5-second 40-yard dash. It's phenomenal. And when you do that in front of 16 pro scouts, one of them is going to say, I don't care if he doesn't make it. The potential, the upside, man, we talk about upside, the upside of having a guy that big and that athletic. If we can teach him this game, if we can get him acclimated to this game, it's going to be a steal. So, yeah, awesome. Orlando says, speaking of which, Gilmore and Vildor gone, right? With Terrion Arnold and Ennis Rakestraw now. Amik Robertson, Carlton Davis, if Emmanuel Mosley plays good. We're still going to need depth. We're still going to need practice squad guys. So whether or not they're gone, I don't know, Orlando. They might still stick. But like I said on all these other positions, they're going to have to work very hard to stay on this team. This team is loaded. Russell says, 4th down fake to Vaki. We lost CJ Moore, who was our favorite for this. The fake punt. Vaki might be that guy now. Show a few looks, bring Vaki in on some kicks, get the defense used to seeing him out there on kicks, and then boom, 4th down fake to Vaki. Love it. Our good friend Dwayne says, good evening to all. Good evening, Dwayne. We drafted a linebacker, signed a free agent linebacker, Steel Chambers from that school in Columbus. Ronald says, Brad Holmes is the man, and he knows what he's doing. It's great to be a Lions fan. Joshua says, what's going on? Dog check. Where is Smoking Jeremy B? Probably on his own show at 11 a.m. weekday mornings and at 9:30 p.m. on Monday, Wednesday, Friday. This is a once-a-week show. It's called The Main Event. My name is Main Event Mike. And we do this show once a week at 7 p.m. Eastern Time. Oh, and I love this comment. Orlando says, sounds like Holmes likes our edges on D. Hell yeah, why wouldn't he? Let's not even talk about Aiden Hutchinson. He plays 98% of the snaps on defense. But that other edge, we talked about this last month. Going across this line now, Aiden Hutchinson, Aleem McNeil, DJ Reader, question mark. You've got 4 or 5 options for that question mark right now under contract. John Kaminsky getting $4.5 million a year. But yet he's rarely even entered into this conversation. Josh Paschal was a 2nd-round pick, and he's supposed to be that guy on that end. He started to come on last year. James Houston's only played in 11 games in his life in the NFL, and he's got 8.5 sacks. And then you got the guy from Canada, Matthew Betts. Doggone right, Orlando, we like our D. We like our edges on this D because we got a lot of them. Oh, by the way, Marcus Davenport only played 1 full season, not even a full. He's never played a full season. He's been on injured reserve every year of his career for 6 years straight. In 2019, he did play 14 games. And in 14 games, he had 9.5 sacks. So he's highly productive. He only played 4 games for the Vikings last year, but he had 2 sacks. So when he's in the game, he's really productive. That's 5 guys I just listed. Why would you draft one? The real deficiency on this team was the secondary, and they addressed it in free agency and in the draft with the first 2 picks. Defensive end was never a need because they know that bringing in a guy like DJ Reader to replace a guy like Benito Jones is going to make a huge difference. DJ Reader's the best run-stuffing defensive tackle in the league. Well, one of, for sure. Run stuffer. DJ Reader's one of the highest graded PFF run stuffers at defensive tackle. And he does that by being able to take on double team blocks, shed blocks, and manipulate the gap. He can manipulate the gap being so big and strong that other edge is going to have more opportunities to get to the quarterback because of DJ Reader being there. James Houston, Pascal, Marcus Davenport, Matthew Betts, these guys, Kaminsky, they're not slouches. These aren't guys that couldn't make it on another team. They would play for another team if they were let go. They're going to be made better by DJ Reader being there. And these coaches know that. So that's a great comment, though, Orlando. I do love it. Bill says the Eagles definitely had the best draft. Shit, Bill, you could say that every year. Howie Roseman's a Jedi. What a great draft. They took the best rated corner on the board on a lot of people's boards in Quinyon Mitchell. Come right back and take Cooper DeJean, a guy that a lot of people were in love with. I wasn't so much in love with DeJean. He did have 3 pick sixes last year, which is pretty impressive. But when you look at his combine numbers, he's a good athlete, but his numbers weren't elite. And his team didn't win a lot. Still a good player, but with all the hype around him, I really wasn't that surprised to see him drop the way he did. And Philadelphia comes in and takes him. He was the highest rated player on everyone's board as far as the national pundits and the draft experts are concerned. Maybe not the team's draft boards, but Mel Kiper and all of the other, Todd McShay. At the time, Cooper DeJean was the highest ranked player left on the board, and Howie Roseman went in there and got him. They're bringing back Chauncey Gardner-Johnson too. They're going to be tough, man. Really tough. They drafted a really good linebacker to come in. Nakobe Dean will be starting this year, a guy that also slid in the draft. They just keep reloading in Philly. I don't know how they do it. And by the way, they signed A.J. Brown to an extension just hours before the draft started. We saw Brad Holmes sign Amon-Ra and Penei Sewell the day before the draft started. That's another thing these good GMs do. They cross the T's, dot the I's, tie it with a bow, so everything's in its place meticulously. I got to agree with you, though, Bill. It's hard for me to argue against the Eagles had the best draft every year, just about. So I'm not going to argue with you on that one at all. Yeah, seeing edge as a need, according to the talking heads at the draft, made me laugh. I know, right? They're not on the inside where we are. Rob says, Packers fan here. We did awesome in the draft. Everybody keeps telling me that, Rob, but I have to admit, some of the guys you picked, I wasn't real familiar with. I'd heard their name or saw their name on a program, but I didn't know much about them, so I wasn't able to pass any judgment on them. But I do know that all the Packer fans are happy. I like positionally what they did. Russell Wayne and I talked about this, and we went round and round about it. He says, you guys stunk it up, because if you look at your guys that you drafted guys in the 3rd round with a 5th round grade. You drafted a guy in the 4th round with a 6th round grade. So depending on what metric you're looking at, you either did great or you did terrible. You did terrible by a lot of metrics. But what I liked was the positional need. You got another dog of a linebacker to go with Quay Walker. Jordan Morgan, the tackle from Arizona. I didn't really like that pick, but I liked the position. Left tackle was a great position for the Packers to select. Orlando says also linebackers blitzing free to the quarterback. Exactly. With DJ Reader manipulating the gaps, Jack Campbell's going to be a man on fire. I predict Jack Campbell will have 7 sacks or more this year. 7 sacks or more. 2nd round linebacker. Maybe even a Pro Bowl alternate if he does exceptionally well. Having DJ Reader on the D-line can't be understated. What it's going to do for everyone involved. What it's going to do for Lee McNeil, Aiden Hutchinson, the question mark on the other defensive end. just having that big man, a Pro Bowl defensive tackle in the middle, it's going to be huge. And that's what Roy's saying here. Once that D-line eats up those blockers, the linebackers will feast. The Eagles have great players fall to them. They trade back and still strike gold. Well, it ain't luck, Roy. It sure isn't luck. And when you're a good, oh yeah, Nolan Smith, that guy, I loved him at the draft last year. I thought, man, this is a high character. It's such a high character. And someday Nolan Smith is going to be a top-notch broadcaster. He's going to be a color guy that is going to be loved by all. You mark my words. You heard it here first from Main Event Mike. Nolan Smith, when he's done playing, is going to be a great announcer. If not, he missed his calling because that kid's got so much charisma. And not only that, he's a hell of a player. Hell of a player. I mean, to your point, the Eagles get great players fall to them. Nolan Smith is a great player that fell to them. And DeJean, a great player that fell to them potentially. So I see you're saying they're not afraid to take the player that slides, right? They're not afraid to do that. Good fortune favors the bold. Ken says, UDFA for the Lions, Isaac Williams out of Illinois could be the sleeper if you could pull up his stats. I haven't done that yet. Haven't gone through these UDFAs. I just saw the names. I said that earlier on this broadcast, but definitely, I know that Jeremy B will be all over that tonight at 9:30 on this very network. Football Talk with Smoke and Jeremy B. Orlando says, biggest surprise, Harbaugh only got one Michigan player. Right. Blake Corum goes to the Rams. Going to be playing in the same stadium where Harbaugh's going to be coaching. Rams got Kyron Williams and Blake Corum. That's a nice running back duo. I like that for them. They have a draft. What else we got in the comments here? Oh, and it's Russell Wayne on the program. How you doing, Russ? Oh, okay. Fred Peterson says Packers fans will say they drafted well no matter who they drafted. I think you're right. They like names. I like. Rob says, I was surprised Blake Corum went so late in the draft. What are your thoughts on Ezekiel Elliott going back to Dallas? I don't think they should have ever gotten rid of him. And let's look at that for a second. If the Cowboys didn't sign Ezekiel Elliott, who the hell's going to run the ball? Derrick Henry should have been a Cowboy. I hate the Cowboys. I hate Derrick Henry. I should hate them together. Don't ask me why the Cowboys didn't get Derrick Henry. That absolutely should have been done. They let Tony Pollard go to Derrick Henry's team, the Titans. Why not take Derrick Henry on your team? Would you rather have Derrick Henry or Ezekiel Elliott, regardless of price? You'd rather have Derrick Henry. So I like Zeke going to Cowboys. When it comes to short yardage, there's no other running back in history I'd probably take over Ezekiel Elliott. I've been basted for that take before, but I stand by it. He's as good from 1 or 2 yards out of the goal line as any back that there's ever been. I don't know what they're going to do about running the ball. They have a bunch of nobodies behind Zeke after that. So I have no idea. Hey, Rust, are you in now?
I think. Am I in? Can you hear me?
Barely.
Okay, let's go. There we go. How about now?
Much better.
Much better, they say. But I'm not blaring your ear out?
Nope.
Good.
We're just going through these comments here. Roy says, man, those Rams had a great draft. Yeah, that's what we're just talking about. What about Jerome Bettis from 1 or 2 yards out? Would you rather have the bus or Ezekiel Elliott, Russ?
Oh, the bus all day. That is, I mean, well, for me, it's not even a question. I mean,
okay.
Ezekiel Elliott was good for a couple years.
I also like Marshawn Lynch from 1 yard out as well.
Yeah, I like Chris Johnson from 1 yard out.
I like Jamal Williams from 1 yard out.
Jamal Williams, baby.
We're gonna bite the kneecap off.
Roy says, I wanted my last memory of Zeke in Dallas to be when he got ran over. Right. Orlando says those damn Rams. They took our guard. They took Jared Verse, Braden Fiskey. Cup will be healthy with Puka and that run game. And some grizzled old man named Stafford under center who has a really annoying wife. But you know what? They play in a really tough division too. And the Cardinals are going to be better this year. And the Seahawks are going to be better this year. And the Niners are going to be good again. So, Russ, we were talking about Giovanni Manu and the total move that Brad made to move up and get this guy. Do you have any thoughts about not necessarily the player, but how it unfolded and how our GM is playing chess against these checker players?
Well, I mean, if I had any criticism from this draft, it would be here on this. But I mean, now we're starting to find out things that, you know, there were other teams that were in on this guy. And then the more and more you read that he actually had like 16 private workouts. So it wasn't like the football community was fooled by this guy. He may have surprised all of us where we're like, wow, we are that with this guy. But most of the NFL community knew who he was. And to me, it's like, go get your guys. One thing about trading up is that you're going to get your guy. You're not, oh man, I wonder who's going to fall to me. No, you're packaging up picks and you're going to be like that guy. And they did that like 3 times to make sure, you know, they obviously wanted Vaki. They obviously wanted this 350-pound incredible Hulk Tongan dude. And they obviously wanted to go up and get the cornerback because, I mean, they've completely reshaped that room. So, yeah, I don't mind it. I thought if I'm going to say it's the weakest pick, I'm not ripping on it at all, really. I mean, I actually like the pick. I like the entire draft, though. So for me to say that's my least favorite pick isn't really ripping on it all that much.
Right, because it's a guy we didn't know anything about. So how can we like the pick that much?
Well, we'll find out next year.
I love the move of it, though, the GM prowess of it. Fred says he's seen some video on Manu. He's a beast. He just stands up and runs people over or pushes them right out of his way. But he's playing against Canadian football players at Division II. So, I don't know how impressive that is.
But imagine that, Mike. A 350-pound dude. Now, this isn't like a 350-pound dude with like a beer gut. This is like a 350-pound weightlifter dude. Now, he's going to be running downhill after he gets past that first level. David Montgomery is going to be behind him. Now, if you're a linebacker and you see this guy running at you at a 4.9 40, are you really going to want to get in his way?
Right.
So
Fred says he also pushes grown men off their feet too, not just kids. But don't forget, you can catch Russell Wayne every weekday at 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time right here on this network, Tuesday through Friday. Jeremy B will be on at 11 a.m. Monday through Friday, and Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 9:30 p.m. When you can't watch a show on this network is Wednesdays at 7:30 p.m. Eastern Time. It is the Darcy Maville Show. Special guests Easy Daniel Robert of Woodward, John Macaron of Sports Illustrated, Walter Stringer, and Joe Chapp on Darcy's show Wednesdays at 7:30, which I'm sure is broadcast into the Detroit Lions News podcast, right?
Yeah, and actually deals are in the works right now. We're trying to get Darcy and his show to come over here and also broadcast into the Villain Squad too. So keep your eyes peeled. We're going to try to see if we can't get these deals done in the back.
Well, I would definitely plug your show. Detroit Lions News Show is the name of the show for Darcy. I would definitely promote your show with Darcy. After he gave me a couple free tickets to see the Lions and Vikings, I was able to take my grandson. One of the best days of my life. So absolutely, Darcy, I'll plug your show on my show anytime you want. unless it airs at the same time as my show, then I wouldn't. Rob says, I was surprised also that the Pack traded Aaron Jones with their division. I think the NFC North is going to be a battle. This is how I see the division ending at the end of the year. Green Bay, Detroit, Chicago, Minnesota. I thought Chicago filled a lot of positional needs and will be competitive as hell this year. 100%, Rob. As a Packer fan, I appreciate your input, and I see it exactly the same if you just flip-flop your top two. That's how I see it. And Vegas agrees with us, Rob. Vegas has the Green Bay Packers and the Detroit Lions over-under win total at 10.5, both teams. So Vegas is predicting what we're saying, that these two teams are going to battle it out to the end to win this division. And the Chicago Bears, they're listed at 8.5 over-under. That was before the draft. So they're going to keep it close. I would not be surprised if that now moves to 9 after they take Rome Odunze with the 9th pick. That's now going to move to 9. And then they've got the Minnesota Vikings at 6.5 as an over-under. So they see it the same as us, Rob, with the Vikings coming in last. Anything to add to that, Russell?
It's a black and blue division, baby. Like, I'm not going to sit up here and tell you that we're going to win the division because I think that we're just going to run over all of these teams in the NFC North. We're going to beat all these teams in the NFC North because Detroit is the best team in the NFC North. They're the best going into the draft. And now that the draft is over and everybody's done all the maneuvering and they got their new players, Detroit is still the best team in the NFC North. And I'm not even trying to be a homer or anything. They came in and they shored up some spots. If this secondary that they just brought in was on the NFC Championship team last year, don't change none of the other players, just the secondary, that's a Super Bowl franchise. We're the Super Bowl winners. Because if they have Carlton Davis, Terrion Arnold, if this revamped secondary is on last year's team. So don't tell me they didn't get a lot better in Detroit because everybody else is just fine. Pass rushing, defensive tackles, all the other positions. We're stacked, baby. Don't sleep on us.
So it brings up a really good point, though. And Rob, this goes out to you, too. With that first game, whether it be in Ford Field or Lambeau, between the Packers and Lions this season is going to be a dogfight. I mean, those two games last year, these two teams have never really liked each other, but now it's serious. Now that we're not your punching bag anymore and we're a serious threat, Green Bay's taking us seriously. And now, competition breeds results, right? So it's going to bring out the best in the Lions, which is going to bring out the best in the Packers and vice versa. And it's going to be epic battles between Jordan Love and this band of new Lions, regardless of who's playing quarterback. This team's set up for success. And so are the Packers, being the youngest team in the NFL. The Detroit Lions and one of the top 7 youngest teams in the NFL. These teams are going to be battling out for years to come. It's going to be so awesome. But that brings me to our NFL timeline. So now that the draft is over, let's look at the NFL timeline and see what's next. Well, the next date on the timeline is May the 2nd. That is the deadline to exercise fifth-year option. The only fifth-year option we were worried about was Penei Sewell. We exercised that option and we re-signed him. So we don't have to worry about that. But a lot of fifth-year option players out there have yet to be determined. And we've got teams have until May 2nd to decide what they're going to do with their fifth-year option players. Then on May 3rd through 6th, rookie minicamp starts for teams that have a rookie quarterback, have a first-year head coach. Rookie minicamp, May 3rd to 6th. Or May 10th through 13th, rookie minicamp starts for those teams that don't have a first-year head coach. This is team tryout time. It's May 10th through 13th for the Detroit Lions. Team tryouts. So Jeremy B., if you think you can run a 4.940, like you told me, you can try out for the Lions between May 10th and May 13th. Or any of you out there want to be Vinny, like Mark Wahlberg in the movie, that's May 10th through 13th. Then it's the one that I'm the most excited about, and that is the NFL schedule. How did you put that up, Russ? How did you know that's what I was going to say? You truly are the maestro.
I got lucky.
The NFL schedule release will be released in mid-May. They have not given us the date yet. We already know what teams we're going to play. All the NFL teams know what teams they're going to play. They even know where they're going to play. They just don't know when, because the schedule comes out in mid-May. Last year, the schedule came out May. Wait a minute. Let me look at my note here. May 11th. The schedule released last year. So we're less than 2 weeks away. The year before that, it was released on May the 12th. The year before that, it was released on May the 13th. Now, I don't know about you, but I absolutely love, this is one of my favorite days of the year, is when they release the schedule. Russ and I get on the phone early in the morning. There's a lot of funny smells floating through the air. And we just sit there and break it down, man. And we look, we open the season in Kansas City. Oh, my God. Oh, look at this. We play the Vikings week 16 and 18. We don't even play the Vikings till the end of the year. Russell Wayne said, no way Kirk Cousins holds up that long. He was right. So that comes out 11th, 12th, or 13th was the last 3 years. It may be as soon as May 10th this year. I cannot wait for the schedule release. And believe me, we will be breaking it down that day. We'll probably go live that day and break down the schedule and get your predictions. Because right now you can't tell me, I think they're going to win 12 games. Well, you don't know that until you look at how the schedule falls. Last year, the schedule was very kind to the Detroit Lions. The toughest stretch of our entire season last year was in the first 5 games. We came out of that stretch 4-1. That helped, believe me, that helped propel us to a 12-5 record. So 4-1 in the first 5 in the worst stretch that we had. It's going to be interesting to see how it falls this year. After that, we've got late May, early June. Organized team activities, also known as OTAs, begin for all NFL teams. Last year, OTAs went from May 23rd to June 15th. So that gives you an idea. Somewhere around the end of May, OTAs will start. They haven't released the dates yet. Then late July, 7/28, they actually have released this date. The 28th of July, training camp starts. And there will be 10 practices open to the public. And that is the end of the NFL's timeline, because after training camp, we know what happens. Preseason football, baby, in August. First game of the year will be September 6th in Brazil with Philadelphia and Green Bay. Let's take a look at these comments before we sign off tonight. Where were we the weakest last season? How did teams beat us last season? The secondary. Where did we get a lot better in the offseason? The secondary. We are a solid team all around. Doesn't get any simpler than that, Fred. Just doesn't. That's just a great take and the absolutely on point. Green Bay got whooped in the first game, but Green Bay got revenge in Detroit for game 2. Is it possible we got a third future Hall of Fame quarterback in Jordan Love? Let's see what else he's saying here. I love. He got to the playoffs in his first year, something A-Rod and Favre didn't do, and played San Fran really tough. It took San Fran 4 quarters to pull the win out. I just realized you haven't heard much about San Fran and how they did in the draft. Well, Rob, you're done loving on your team. We'll allow it. Because, hey, I'm a believer now. You got to trust the process. We draft and develop our quarterbacks. I used to go, yeah, whatever. You got lucky twice. And now it looks like you got lucky 3 times. No, there's no such thing as lucky 3 times. Now it's an actual pattern. I guess you got to trust the process. But Rob, I will remind you that there were a ton of people calling for Sean Clifford after game 5, right? You know it, and I know it. You were 2-3, and the Packer Nation was not happy while this kid found his legs as an NFL starter. And I'm not going to say half. I'll say easily a third. We're calling for Sean Clifford. What happened to trust the process? I said. What happened to draft and develop? I said. We made funny memes. We made funny songs. Love stinks. Love stinks. And then the kid catches fire, like you say. He starts to get it. The game slows down for him. Now it looks like, I'm not going to go so far as say Hall of Famer, Rob, but you've definitely got a high front-end starting quarterback on your team in Jordan Love. And I am scared. Not scared. I'm just conscious of it. I know that he's there, and it's a problem, and it's something to deal with. They're a young team. They got young weapons. It's going to be a dogfight between these two teams. Hello there, Jeremy B. We've been pumping the hell out of your show today. Every person that thought I was you, I didn't tell him. I just played along. J-Mommy in the house, she says Manu ran a 5.9. No, it was a 4.96, J-Mommy. They put him out on kickoffs. You think anyone is looking forward to trying to block him? He's 352-pound guy in great shape. Yeah. He ran a 4.9.6. Gun Guy says Love did throw the worst pass in the playoffs. Yeah, across the body, interception to end the game. Tough one. Tough one. I love that he owned up to it, though. Immediately after the game, he owned up to it. What you got, Russell?
a Hall of Fame, really? The guy had like 8 good games in the NFL.
He's not putting him in the Hall of Fame. He's asking, do you think we've got another one in Green Bay?
I don't, you know what? It's not been long enough. That's exactly what you would tell us. That's what you told us after Jared Goff had a very, very good end of 2022. You said you better wait and see what he can do the following year to see if he can, do the sequel. I don't know. This is an entire offseason where 31 teams are going to get to look at a whole bunch of tape with Jordan Love on it. And there's some times where Jordan Love's out there and he looks kind of goofy. When things aren't going his way, he gets into really, really goofy, trying to throw across his body, making mistakes that like Jared Goff wouldn't make. Jared Goff's more of a game manager guy. If he doesn't have a play, he's just going to kind of chuck it out of bounds, not do anything. Jordan Love, he's going to throw an interception at the end of the game. Or he's going to win it. So right. I don't know. I think it's kind of really fast to even mention Hall of Fame with Jordan Love yet. I mean, don't you think that Jared Goff is more in line for a Hall of Fame than Jordan Love would ever be?
Not ever be, but at this point, yes.
Way more. I wouldn't even think of mentioning that for Jared Goff at this point in time. And the fact that you would bring up Jordan Love at this point in time, come on, man. Come on.
Right on. I want to thank everybody for joining us today. It's the main event. We do it every Monday at 7 p.m. Eastern time. God bless each and every one of you. I hope you all make it home safe to wherever you're traveling today. We'll see you next time. Peace out.